Bronco in red. Ito ang tama. Hey everyone, Vince here from AutoIndustriya, and yes, we've got the new Ford Bronco for you today. This is a veritable 4x4, the new generation of the famous Bronco from so many decades past. Actually, you can see it right there on the windshield since 1966. But there has been a hiatus with the Bronco nameplate in the Ford lineup. And that's why when they brought in this new generation model, they had to do quite a bit of engineering work, global engineering work, to make sure that this vehicle is ready not just for US roads or US trails, but on the sand dunes in the Middle East, in, well, terrain like this, in the jungles of Southeast Asia, wherever you take it. This should be capable because of the kind of testing that they did. For you guys in the US, this has already been around for quite a while because they launched it there, I think 2021, but for us, it was just this year that they finally introduced it in the Philippine market. So if you saw a Bronco in the Philippine roads in the last couple of years, chances are it's not from the official dealer or importer, but rather it's a gray market unit. This one is an official unit from Ford Philippines, and they're only bringing in one variant. This is the Outer Banks Sasquatch. Yes, in the US, you have different variations of the Ford Bronco, different trim levels. There's even a classic heritage look, which we think is really, really cool. But for our market, they're only offering us this, at least to start. Now, the Outer Banks, in terms of the nomenclature, or at least the stratification of Ford's variants for the Bronco, it means it has more creature comforts inside, more smart driving features as well, and also, being a Sasquatch, it's got some pretty nice off-road upgrades. And that is really the point of something like the Bronco. This is a 4x4 off-roader first and foremost, and road car very much a distant second. Later when we drive it, we'll show you. If I had a model nameplate that has as much history as a Bronco, then I would go retro too. And you can see it with the way they do the front. The round headlights with this little LED strip there just looks so good, so signature. You've got Bronco proudly spelled out there with the black grille and this very chunky front bumper that looks like it's gonna take a lot of abuse, no problem. Even when you look underneath, you will see a lot of protection there for the engine as well as the suspension. Now, Ford is kind of trolling us with all kinds of acronyms with the vehicle. Like, for example, they call the suspension the HOS, the high something optimized suspension system. That's what they're going for here. The big thing here are the many touches that they have to enhance it for all kinds of rugged use. For example, these little points here, you can tie a strap there, put it up there somewhere, and basically when you're going through a bit of jungle, it'll help brush it away. It depends on how you want to use it. Plenty of ways to put that to use. Now, this being a Sasquatch package, it adds quite a few things. One is the suspension already. Two, the wheels and tires. These are beadlock capable, but those aren't actually beadlock. I think this is just for style, but I think maybe you can buy a separate accessory for it to grab onto the tire if you want to pressure down for off-road situations. And mind you, the tires on these are 17-inch wheels, but the tires are 35 inches in diameter on the outside. So it gives you a whopping 292 millimeters of ground clearance underneath. I think somebody can crawl there if you want. I mean, I probably, no, maybe not me. But being that they push the wheels out and the tires are so much bigger, they added these fender flares. I mean, honestly, I would have preferred maybe had they gone for a steel, like extended this out there more properly instead of an add-on, but still, it looks good. There are gaps in it though, so if you see, mud is getting up there on the side step. Now, if it was a true off-road, meaning like it's truly serious and you're gonna modify it, you would probably ditch those and put in rock sliders if you're into that kind of thing, because that's gonna be very useful for when you're going off-road. Now, up top, you'll see that this one does have the removable roof. It's the hard roof, so you can remove it if you want open top motoring. You can even remove the doors if you want, because these are frameless doors. So when you open the doors and remove this, you can actually store all four doors, should be anyway, here in the back if you so need. From up top, we look down below. In the front, there is a double wishbone front suspension, but in the back, it's a solid axle, meaning it's what off-roaders want. You want that kind of axle articulation to get you through all kinds of situations. And it's got, well, locking differentials. You know, it's very rare now for car makers to have a horse as their emblem for any kind of model. I mean, Ford does Mustang, they do Bronco. I can't think of any other SUV that does it. Let me know in the comments below if there are. Now, the great thing about the Bronco is that you can open the tailgate, or at least this gate, two ways. One is this way, so it's very similar to a Jeep, and you can also open this. Now, the great thing about this, even when you open it, like if you want to open that glass, you can run it like that. I mean, you totally use this as one of our tracking video cars. It's gonna be pretty cool. And here you can get a glimpse of the wheels as well. Like I said, the beadlock is more of fashion only, but in this one, you can see how the tread is. It's very blocky. It's mud terrain, MT. That's why it says there, Territory. Ooh, that's another Ford model. Territory mud terrain right there. So keep that in mind. It is gonna be a bit noisy later. We'll show you. Now here you'll see this is actually a rear camera. This is part of the camera system of the Ford Bronco. It protrudes out there, so it gives you a more accurate view, because normally if they put the camera up here, when it looks down, it's just gonna look wrong. You're just gonna be looking at the tread. If they put it down here, it's gonna look wrong. So here is the optimal place to put it. Now, when we open the cargo area, what you get is a space that measures about 31 inches by 42.5 in width. You can fold down the rear seats almost flat. Goes up to around 64 inches. The height here is about 36, which is pretty good. I mean, for a vehicle like this, it's nice and spacious, and I think it's more spacious than that of the Wrangler Rubicon, the 5-door model. So this is more of a direct competitor than that, and you can see that the progression in terms of the years of research that they've done with Ford, the improvements they have is actually pretty cool. You have these tie-down points here, and by the way, being that it's a Bronco, they put in a lot of, let's say, Easter eggs all around the vehicle. Like, for example, here, if you come in close, you'll see here on the tie-down points, it's got a lasso there for you cowboys, howdy. And then you look here, there's gonna be your tools and stuff. So overall, it's a vehicle that's made to carry, but they kind of had a little bit of fun with some of the touches with the vehicle, which is something we appreciate. And also, when we were driving it around earlier, if I remember correctly, the way this spare tire is mounted, it's pretty solid. It's pretty cool. Howdy! So this is the engine of the new Ford Bronco, at least here in the Philippine market. We're only getting one. It's a 2.7 liter EcoBoost turbo V6 engine. It's got 335 horsepower and sardines when it comes to the torque. 555 Newton meters overall. You got a 4x4 system, as expected, which is what you want in a Bronco, and a 10-speed automatic. Now, the off-road system has something called GOAT, G-O-A-T, or goes on all terrain, or goes over all terrain, something like that, or we can just call it Michael Jackson, not LeBron. What we like about the Bronco is that they make no apologies that it is going to be a 4x4 SUV. For one, they give it maximum water weighting. They're claiming 850 millimeters of water weighting. And you can kind of see right here, because the air intake is way up here, way above the ground. So that's going to be very reassuring for most of the driving that we do. Also, there's a lot of insulation with the hood when it comes to the heat, which is going to be useful. The air filter is located high. Yeah, I can see the computer box right over there. See how it's positioned right there on the firewall? We don't normally see that, which is kind of a neat touch. But it does have to be noted that a lot of the things with the engine, particularly with the wiring, we can see quite a bit of the wire exposed through the harness. They don't try to cover it up too much, at least close to the connector, which is fine if you're looking to, let's say, if you have to repair it in some way, if you have to change something, or if you want to upgrade something. I mean, you shouldn't really need to, but if you do, you can see all the wire there. But if you're a neat neck like me, then you'd want to cover it all up. You'd want a better job in doing the harness. But depends really on your purpose for your Ford Bronco. Anyways, enough about what's under the hood. Let's go check out what's inside. To be honest with you, this is my first time in the back of this Bronco. And to be clear, it's nicer than what I thought it would be. Now you do have this leather or vinyl or something. I think they call this rated for like splashes. It's marine grade type of upholstery. I'll have to fact check that, but that means it should be easy to clean. The space for my height, I'm 168 cm or 5'6". It's actually okay. Of course, I'm a bit bigger with the weight and all that, but for someone like me, it's pretty comfortable. The seat cushioning is nice. The thigh support, if you're taller, maybe not enough, but still, it's a nice back seat. You do have kind of like a theater seating here, meaning the rear is higher than the front, so I can look over the headrest here depending on the setting of the driver. Windows are nice and generous, and speaking of these doors can be easily removed, or more or less easily removed. You have to undo a few things, but also there's a connector there for the power window and the lock here, so it's kind of easier to detach, which is a good thing. And you can see that it needs that because the power window switch is right here in the middle, along with your charging ports, one for your AC, 230 volts max right there, and your USB-C and USB-A. So it's pretty nice here in the back as well. You got these mats here that are perfectly formed for the contour of the floor, so it catches all the mud, all the grit, and it's going to be very useful in a place like this where we are now because there's just mud everywhere. In the last few years, we've become used to crossovers having all kinds of fancy interiors, piano black, shiny silver trim, some space age shapes and the like. But it's always refreshing when you step into something more purpose-driven. Think like the Jeep Wrangler, the Land Rover Defender, even the new series. Yes, it is a crossover technically, but the design touches, especially the Suzuki Jimny. The design thinking there is that it's more ruggedized. Everything has to be like more of plastic, a bit more rubberized in a lot of things. And then you see it here, like that same kind of attention to functionality more than design. That's what you get in this vehicle. So you look at this dashboard. If you notice, it's very truck-like. Like it's very upright. It's very straightforward. I like that. So your eyes are drawn, of course, to this dashboard. The way they have it scalloped over there, very unique. It even has this little ledge here to kind of protect, or at least give a shade for this large 12-inch screen right here, which is rather cool. You have Bronco neatly spelled there. This is also a silver, kind of like a matte powder-coated type of silver. It is plastic, which is perfectly fine, but it does look rather good, even though when I press it in a few areas, I can see it kind of, it's just a fascia panel just to give it a nice overall design. But still, it does look good. It does have these grab handles on either side, which is rubberized, and it's rather cool. This grab handle to get in and out of the vehicle. One thing I did notice though is that when you move it around, there is a little bit of a gap with the dashboard, but still I'm not gonna knock him any points for that because we did expect a truck-like pattern. Same here. Like you look here, this grab handle here for the passenger to steady himself or herself. So that's gonna be useful, but it does, see again, it moves quite a bit. I would rather this be rock solid to kind of be more reassuring if you're bracing yourself up against it. Now, looking around, we have a combination screen here, meaning analog speedometer right there with your temperature gauge, and a screen here as your multi-info display. So it has things like your RPM, your speed as well. When you have the smart driving features right here, the ADAS of Ford, you can control it all right here via the steering wheel, which is a good thing because that's what you want. So easy control of the stuff like the adaptive cruise control, the lane keep, all those functions can be controlled here as with the volume. And being that it's a 4x4 and they kind of want to make it easier to clean, especially like to prevent sand from getting in or mud, it has this, like instead of having like individual buttons, it's one full, like kind of almost not really rubberized, but it's a matte panel which is kind of prevents anything from getting in there, which I like. The Bronco logo there, which has been messing around with my guys because they keep having a hard time getting it straight. That is the correct orientation, boys, for the Bronco, because as a bucking Bronco, it's gonna kick like a rodeo. No, it's not like this. It looks okay like that, but nope, it's really like this. So the screen here, if you notice, the transmission control, you have your PRND, so PR, the 360 camera comes on there with the rear view camera, and you have the sight lines there. And then you have neutral right there in the middle, and then drive. And then the manual mode here, there are no paddle shifters, but you do have the plus minus here on the side. It's not a gate. It's not like you don't push it into one gate or the other. You have this toggle switch here, or rocker switch. I'm not sure how you call that, but still, there you go. When you start playing around with the GOAT modes, the Go Overall Terrain modes, which is basically your terrain response, you'll see which setting you are in right here. So the GOAT mode control is right here. So you have 2 high, 4 high, 4A, 4L. So the 2-wheel drive high, 4-wheel drive high, 4-wheel drive auto, meaning it selects based on the situation. And then you have, when you go here, let's go through the modes now, right? So when you have right now normal mode, so the Bronco icon there, and then you have eco mode right there for economy. I mean, there's only so much economy you can do here. And then when you go to sport mode, the vehicle switches to 4-wheel drive auto. Right? Meaning it's ready to kick in if and when like it feels like a slippery road or anything. So it'll do that. And then you go to, it has nice graphics by the way. And they have slippery mode, which is also 4-wheel drive auto. And then you go into the mud and ruts. When you do mud and ruts mode, it will switch to 4-wheel drive 4-wheel drive high, but with the rear differential locked. So that's already automatic right there. And your off-road camera comes on, so you can place exactly where you want the tires to be. And mind you, remember those tie down points right there on the hood? Well, it serves as a reminder of where the vehicle or where your tires actually are. Though in this case, the tires are a bit wider, so it may not be 100% accurate, but it gives you an idea anyway. So here you can have that camera set up. The resolution, it's not perfect. I've seen clearer cameras, but still it's pretty good. And you can see where your tires are going to go. At least gives you an idea of where you're going to place your tires. And then if you pull it one more, then you have the sand mode. So in sand mode, pretty much the same setting. It's just expecting a bit more wheel spin because it is sand. There you go. So let's go back to the standard mode. Now, if you notice, there's this panel up here. These are not aux buttons. These are actually your 4-wheel drive control. So you have front locking differential, which is what you want. You have the rear locking differential, which is also nice. This one is one of those features that it's similar to the tank turn, I guess. It's called the trail turn assist. There you go. So if you want to make a really tight turn, it'll grab onto something, or it'll grab onto the inner wheel and try to make it a tight turn. That's going to be useful in very, very specific situations. Up here, what do we get? The lights and all that, sunglass holder there, nicely integrated. And then like I showed you earlier, it does have the removable roof. Oh, speaking of up here, one thing we did notice is that up there, there's I think a latitude, longitude. I'm not sure what the location is, but later we'll verify exactly where that will lead us. I mean, if it's in the Yosemite Mountains or park, we can't go there, but still, nice touch. Now, onto the screen, this one does have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. It's the latest generation of sync. Oh, by the way, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And you get a wireless charger here, so you can make full use of that. With also the USB-A, USB-C, sorry, A and then USB-C right there. Now, you have a lot of controls that you can play around with in this vehicle right here, depending on what features you want to play around with. You have various apps, again, CarPlay, Android Auto. You can add more if they have any over-the-air upgrades. Then you have owner's manual. If you want to read that, you should. But what I liked is that Ford resisted the urge to put everything in the screen. You know, like I did note that with some of the Ranger variants, I think, and even the Everest, that they put a lot of the primary controls here without and reducing the buttons there. Now they haven't, which is good. So you have your climate controls here, you have some audio controls there, you know, nice and chunky buttons, so which is always a good thing to have in a vehicle like this, you know, big chunky buttons, because it's easy to find it when you're trying to get going. Engine start stop there with the, I guess, the Ford Bronco headlight signature over there. On the left side, your headlight controls, illumination controls and all that. Here in the middle, being that the doors are removable, you do have the control panel for your power windows right here, along with your mirror. So earlier I was looking for a control there. No, it's actually right here. So keep that in mind in this vehicle. So they removed as many of the controls from the doors as possible, apart from the lock, unlock right there. And the doors, these have the net, which is rather cool. instead of having a fixed cup holder, so you can fit like fairly large bottles there, no problem. Big compartment here. In here, what do I see? Just a compartment, nothing fancy, no cooler function there. So overall, it is still quite a bit of plastic, but that's okay. You want this kind of thing because it's easier to clean, easier to wipe. You're not gonna care too much about it. And right here, designed and engineered Ford in Dearborn, Michigan, USA. So yeah, built at the Michigan assembly plant. So let's see how this Michigan-built vehicle performs on Philippine roads. So we've had the Bronco for a few days now, and clearly it's a fun vehicle because one, it's a Bronco, it looks cool. It's also very capable off-road, and we'll roll in some footage of us doing it. Actually, later we'll go on the water if we can, if it's not too high, but shouldn't be no problem for the 850 of this, the 850 millimeters water weighting of this, water fording of this. But really, when you're driving it around here, I mean, this is a light trail. This is not even a trail. It's just like a rough road. It's incredibly easy. Now, being that it is a frame-based SUV or even frame-based truck, is that it's not gonna feel like a crossover, not even anywhere close, because you're gonna be pitching and rolling a bit more compared to the others, and that's actually perfectly fine. You know, so long as you know what you're getting into, it should be okay. But the great thing here, as you can see now, you can remove the top just like in the Wrangler and enjoy a bit of open top motoring. So that's what this gives you. Hopefully it doesn't rain. And compared to, like, say, the Wrangler, what I like is that it's completely open here. There's no bar here. I mean, hopefully I won't need that. I'm not planning to roll this vehicle in any way, but still gives you the commanding view of what's ahead of you. You get all kinds of the features that you want, like the 360 camera and all that with the off-road view. But what I really want to find out is it great on the road? And right now, let's try it out, because the last few days we've been on Metro Manila roads, like on the Skyway and all that. And it is smooth. You do hear a bit more of the noise because it does have the mud terrain tires. You even hear motorcycles. But all things considered, it is quite nice. But when you have the windows open, when you have the roof off, the noise is gonna be part of the experience, and it's perfectly fine. So driving it around now, yes, there is noise. Hear that droning? That is from the tires, because there are bigger gaps in the tires for the mud terrain. It is gonna make a little bit more noise because it's gonna reverb between those things. That's why when you get highway terrain or all terrain, it's a bit reduced compared to this, because that's what it was meant to do in the first place. It was meant to reduce the noise. This one, it kind of sacrifices on the noise to give you more traction on off-road terrain, on rocks, on mud. That's why it's mud terrain, MT. So that's just a trade-off you have to really pick, and that's standard in the Sasquatch package. The real drawback here, the real compromise, is when it comes to fuel economy. Because this is a 2.7 liter V6, even though it is a turbo, even though it is an EcoBoost, even though you have eco mode activated. When we took it out on Skyway stage 3 and the other Skyway, we're averaging around 70 kilometers per hour. Our average fuel economy was 10.5, best effort. You know, but even in the city, the fuel economy was pretty close to my last Lala Move and Grab Writer rating, which was around 3.5 kilometers per liter. So that is just to be expected. But if you're looking at one of these vehicles, you already know that it's going to be thirsty. Where the Bronco does live up to expectations in a very good way is when you take it out on a road like this. Now, this is not a trail. This is just like a rough, unpaved road with lots of rocks and stuff like that would force like crossovers to really slow down. This one, you can kind of just not really power through it, but you can just drive over it like a normal vehicle does on asphalt. You know, you just drive it here, you pay no mind. I just have it in sport mode, so it's basically in 4-wheel drive auto, not with the diff locked and all that. It's just like, just feel confident. And if anything, this is kind of overkill for this kind of terrain. But when the terrain gets really tough, then it's gonna be a godsend when it comes to getting you out of the tough spots that you may encounter. But over here is just like, yeah, you know, just bro, drive through, and the suspension is really working to absorb as much of the rough stuff as it can, because it does have the Bilstein shocks, which is optimized for lots of off-road situations. But like right now, just driving here, don't really have to think about it. You just power it through, and it's so easy. You know, that's what you buy a Bronco for, to make it easy on yourself when you're going off-road. You know, even when you, let's say, drive a Defender, you know, the new Defender series, I like that vehicle. But this one, I just like the feeling that it's quite rugged. You know, because when they went to the new generation of Defender, they did go to a unibody construction, a monocoque. This one still sticks to the tried and tested frame base, which is nice. So it feels, you know what? It feels like a really big Jimny, which is a weird thing to say. You know, I really wish I did get a chance to drive the older Bronco, because there aren't too many of those around. Even when you go to places like Baguio, where there are a lot of the older 4x4s around, I don't see any Broncos there. But you know, let me know in the comments below if you guys know someone in the Philippines, in Metro Manila, with a Bronco. I'd love to be able to take a look at it and, you know, see and compare. But as it stands, I think Ford did very well to interpret the formula and the expectations of the people of a Bronco. Okay, so we promised you guys a little bit of off-road action, and we try to keep our promise here on AI. So there are two ways we can do this. We're gonna try to cross to that other side over there. Two ways we can do it. One is using GOAT mode, which is the mud ruts, which you can. But for this one, I think I will go four-wheel drive low. So if we go four-wheel drive low, typical, shift into neutral, wait for it to engage, advanced track off, good. So I have manual control pretty much of how the throttle is, and I'm gonna lock the rear differential, which should be useful, and we're gonna try to make this crossing. Now, the last time I did this crossing, it was in I think it was a Hilux, so it should be no problem in this one. So we're just trying to, I don't have a spotter with me this time, so we're gonna try it just by using the system. And right there, I can see the position of the rocks, which is good. Yeah, very easy in the Bronco. I'm gonna try to cross up here, avoid those big rocks, because everything seems to have shifted. So, big rock there. No problem for the 292 ground clearance of this. Should be all good, but making it okay. It's easy to feel out what the tires are doing, and to be honest with you, it's so much easier than it was in the Hilux, because in this one, more clearance, bigger tires. Like, I remember the Hilux, I thought the tires were a bit too small. This one, it's just right for this. And wow, that was the easiest, least scary crossing there I've had. Again, for many of you guys who are serious about off-road, about 4x4, that was probably Mickey Mouse for you. For me, not really. I'm not a 4x4 expert. I am an enthusiast, but I would never call myself a 4x4 expert. But I do know what to do if I get into a bad situation. And let me tell you now that this one just makes it easy, as it comes from the factory, and I don't have to do anything. You can just take it out. Let me unlock this diff so I can turn a little bit better. That it's actually easy. Oh, you know what? Let me try the trail turn. I'm not sure if I'm gonna. I hope I don't wreck anything. Trail turn assist on. So, oh yeah, that is easy to go around. I don't think it was grabbing on, or maybe it was, but it felt pretty good. So that's it for our take on the new Ford Bronco Outer Banks Sasquatch package for the Philippine market. And to sum it up, it's a collection of pros and cons, and it just depends on you if you're willing to accept it. So cons right away, fuel economy. When it comes to also the noise inside, you hear a bit more. The ride, it's not gonna be perfect. It's not gonna be crossover, or it's not gonna be premium as well. But when you take it out here, where the road's a bit rougher, where you can smell food being cooked using an open fire, where you can hear the nature and very few of the sounds of everyday city life, this is gonna be great if that's the kind of lifestyle that you are after. But the biggest con, well, depending on you, is gonna be the price, because this one retails for 4.998 million. So just under 5. Now, it may seem like a lot, especially when you compare it to the US prices, because you can't really expect the same price as it is in the US because of imports, duties, and all that. It's gonna be much higher once it enters in the Philippines. But considering what the gray market was offering it before for, well, the 5 million price tag is not so bad. Anyway, this is Vince of AutoIndustriya. Thank you for watching. Do leave a like, a comment, and even subscribe if you want to, if you found this video useful. And see you on the trail. So, I think ready na pala to. One more river crossing.